Welcome, everyone. I'll call the meeting of October 4th, 2016 to order. Brother Brown will be doing our invocation for us this evening, and then please remain standing, and Councilmember Donchak will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our Father in heaven, we are grateful to be gathered here today. We are thankful to live in this beautiful city, to be a part of this great community, and especially part of this great country. We are deeply grateful for the freedoms we enjoy, for the blessings we have to have those who watch and care for us in our public safety and in the military. And we're grateful, Father, for the lives we get to live here, for the safety and for the happiness we enjoy with our families. We ask a blessing upon these proceedings. We'll be able to weigh the balance of the issues with soberness and with great care, and that we'll be able to accomplish the business of the city at hand. We ask a blessing upon all of our residents, wherever they may be, that they may be safe, that they will also be enjoying their evening. And Father, we ask a special blessing upon all those in our military and our public safety who are serving us diligently, that they will be cared for and that they will know that we appreciate them. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. And please remain standing and join me in a salute to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilmember Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Donchak.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Ward.
Here.
Mayor Baker.
Here.
And Councilmember Ham is absent. The first item on the agenda is presentation by San Clemente High School students Sarah Barnes and Brigham Merity concerning campus activities.
Hi, I'm Sarah. Over here. Brigham's on his way. We went to the wrong building, so we're both running a little late.
That happens all the time.
Yeah, I thought it was down at behind the library, so I kind of misguided us. But he should be here any second. So. Okay.
It's okay. Councilman Ham also is lost. He doesn't know. I kid. That's terrible. I shouldn't say that.
Well, why don't you go ahead and just roll on without him? How about that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
All right.
If he gets here, if you wouldn't mind just staying and you could do introductions then at that point.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That works.
We're glad to have you, by the way.
Oh, thank you. So, should I?
We love the high school, so you're in a very comfortable environment here.
Oh,
so just treat us that way.
So the first thing that Brigham and I wanted to talk about was a club that, actually Brigham helped start it, but it's called Loud Crowd. And so what it does is it organizes the student body for like a student section for big sporting events. And so we coordinate cheers and do like dances to songs and everything and plan halftime shows and stuff. And so this was our first game, had record attendance because of Loud Crowd. And so we all it was just really great because everybody was dressed up together, and I actually have a video. I guess the video's not going to work today. Sorry. This is our first time doing it, so. And there's Brigham. Welcome. I was just going over Loud Crowd if you'd like to talk more on that.
Have you started anything?
I just kind of barely talked about it.
All right, so me and a couple buddies, we started Loud Crowd.
Right into the mic, Brigham, right there, for the so people at home can hear you too. There you go, buddy.
All right. So we started Loud Crowd, and it's basically just a club that runs the student section at the high school, and it's just built so much school spirit. It says up there, first football game had record attendance. It was more than last year's homecoming game, and it boosted ticket sales, more money bringing into the school, and then also a video we made from the first home game. It says at the bottom, it went viral. It was posted on House of Highlights on Instagram that has 4 million followers, and then also on Football Sport, which has 13 million followers. And yeah, we have it's not.
You're going to have to bring it to us next time you come, okay? We'll want to see it next time.
You can email it to the council, we can take a peek at it.
Everybody at home wants to see it too, Tim.
That's true, that's true.
So our next thing that we have to talk about is Into the Woods, which was the summer musical that the drama production put on. And I saw it myself, and it was actually really, really good. And drama department just came under a new director, so everybody was kind of apprehensive on how it went. And it was evaluated by the Macy's, which are like really big in the drama department. And they've won awards like every year, so hopefully this show will do as well. And it was sold out every single night, and they had 5 shows.
I went. It was legit. It was really good.
Yeah.
It's extremely difficult, by the way. It's an incredibly difficult musical to pull off, and I'm surprised they even took it on with only 6 weeks of practice. Was
Yes,
that right?
yeah.
6 weeks? And it was awesome. The talent is ridiculous in the high school. It's unfair how much talent the drama department has. So kudos to everyone who participated on that. It was amazing. It was really good.
It was really good. Oh, well. Yeah, you know.
All right. Well, the video's not working.
Give that one a try. We'll see how that. Laura, can you got any hints there or any ideas?
Let's go to the high school website, and it's on the homepage. It is, okay.
Let the assistant city clerk do some IT work here. We'll just
I
hang
probably
out for
just
1
have to
minute.
sign into my Google Drive because
No, let her, let
All
Laura,
right.
let Laura do it. I'm really good at that. I'd probably hack into his account and, you know.
Sarcasm duly noted. Hashtag sarcasm, yeah. Oh, there we go. There's Loud Crowd. Oh! Sometimes it's meant to be. Sometimes it is not meant to be.
We'll figure it out when we get it on the city website.
Sounds good.
Okay, hear that? We'll figure it out and we'll get it on the city website. Okay.
yeah. So what this video, what it has on it is just a preview of one of the halftime dances that the seniors were doing, and so the theme this year is music genres, tri-tunes, like iTunes, tri-tunes. Anyways, so we broke it up. Freshmen are country, sophomores are rock, juniors are rap, and then seniors are EDM. And so basically the dances go along with those themes, and we're getting along with our
What is
flows and everything.
EDM? I'll be the-
EDM is like,
Come on now.
it's
Show
like-
us, Bob.
It's like, have you ever heard music from like a music festival, like
Yeah,
Coachella?
it's like indie music?
Yeah, it's like indie, like kind of techno-y,
Okay.
like it's kind of hard to describe, but it's cool music. So yeah, homecoming's
Hard to describe. You just described it perfectly there. That's very hard.
Homecoming's coming along nice. It's really fun. Also getting all the classes together, boosting school spirit. So that's homecoming.
So recently we had Senior Week, which was run by ASB, and basically it was just like a full week of dress-up days for only the seniors. And so, and then they had like incentives. So like Monday we had breakfast before school started, like Bagel Shack catered, and we all ate before class. And then we had dance rehearsal for the homecoming dance, and they provided like dessert after. And then we had like a tailgate party before the football game on that Friday, and we had like pizza and a barbecue, and everybody just kind of mingled, and it was really fun. And so for dress-ups, we the days of the week were the
It
video
was
showed
on
it,
the video,
but it was, the teacher said that it was the most spirited senior class. So like Monday was Mommy Monday, so everybody dressed up like to like a moms, and then Tuesday was Touchdown Tuesday, so we were all wearing like sports gear, and then Wednesday was Way Too Much Sun Wednesday, so we all wore like our beach gear and like sunscreen and everything, and then Thursday was
Touchdown Thursday.
No, it wasn't Touchdown Thursday.
Watch out for Thunderstorm Thursday.
Oh yeah, Thunderstorm Thursday, so we all wore umbrellas and rain boots even though it was like 80 degrees. And then Friday was Foo Foo Friday, so we were all wearing country club attire. And it was really funny to watch because all the underclassmen didn't really know what was going on the first few days, so they just saw a bunch of kids wandering around wearing like super weird costumes and they had no idea what was going on. But it ended up being really good and we got a lot of photos and the teachers loved it and it was really good, like building class spirit. Oh, and then, so the Triton Times is the school newspaper, and I'm involved in that. And so this year, they started a Snapchat news story. And so every morning when zero period starts, which is when newspaper occurs, at like 7 o'clock, we do a little like news update so that all the students can see it. And so it talks about the weather, the sports scores from the night before, the games that are going on that night, and like any school event that's occurring. And so it has over 150 viewers daily, and it's growing because we just started it this year. And yeah, it's really well liked, and people are really, and every day has like kind of a different theme, and so it's going.
How do we get on? How do we get on that? I'd kind of like to see that.
If you have the Snapchat app, you can actually take a picture of that ghost like thing, and it'll add it on, and then you can watch it. I know it's kind of complicated. I have a video. I don't know if it's gonna play. This one might, because it's different. Yeah. So this was from the last Friday, and so we tried something new and we filmed around campus because usually we have like a set within a classroom that has like the Triton Times backdrop, and so people were saying that it was getting kind of redundant, so we decided to go around campus and film. So this was kind of the trial run, but it's the only footage I have of it, so here's an example. Does the volume work?
Of course not.
Okay, the volume, I guess, is not working, but I'm listening. You're not going to be able to hear it, but this is kind of an example of like just, so she's talking about the blood drive and then announcing the play, and then this is announcing a college that was visiting, and then this was announcing the football game that was going on that night, and then this was announcing homecoming tickets that went on sale this week. It's just kind of silly, but it gets everybody informed, and this was our joke. It was a Friday, so we have a joke of the Friday. And then at the end of every Snapchat story, we have like an inspirational quote. So this was like our inspirational quote of the day. And I know you can't hear it, but it's fun. People really like it. So, and it's fun to film. Yeah. Thank you. And then our last kind of thing to talk about is, so in April of 2016, I believe it was ASB kind of coordinated this, but they installed water stations. And so they're above the drinking fountain, which is good because some of our drinking fountains aren't reliable anyways. And so this way it's much easier for students to fill up reusable water bottles. And so far since they installed the machines, they've saved 15 to 16,000 water bottles. And every time that you like fill up a bottle, it adds a number to it so you can tell how many bottles you've been saving. And so we have 2 of them, and I think they're trying to get more, but it's really fun both for like the environmental classes to observe and also just for students to see that they're making an impact on the environment. So yeah, anything else?
Okay, Sarah, Brigham, thank you. We're going to have a lot of fun with you kids this year.
Next time it'll be better, I promise.
Thank you. No, it's going to be great.
Okay.
Thanks.
Members of the audience who wish to address council on matters that are within the jurisdiction of the City of San Clemente, but not separately listed on the agenda, may do so during the oral communications portion of the meeting. A total time limitation of 30 minutes is allocated for oral communications part 1, with each speaker being allotted 3 minutes in which to give his or her presentation. And we do have some cards.
All right, Anthony Lafrano is up, then Mark Mordicini, then Richard Gardner. Mr. Lafrano, you here? I don't see Anthony. Okay, Mark? Then Richard Gardner, then Ben Duran.
Good evening, and thank you for the chance to speak here at the council meeting. This is a problem we have with the Marquita Canyon. I've been living in San Clemente since 1961. We've lived in this same area for 55 years. This is not the first time that I've cleaned the canyon out that's right below this access area. This is looking at the canyon from the Puente side between Palizada and Marquita. And I left in about the middle of July, went on a 12-day trip to see my daughter up in Washington. Up to that point, I'd called the sheriffs about 4 times to report transients and kids and people trying to start fires and all kinds of different things in this area. When I left, there was nothing in this area. There was no furniture. When I came back 12 days later, it was like a living room down in this it's basically a watershed control area that goes underneath Puente. You can see the drain that drains off of Puente down in the canyon, and there's a culvert that goes underneath all the way down the canyon and lets out at Linda Lane Park and down onto the beach after that. This is some of the example of some of the graffiti that was on the retaining wall that's owned by my neighbor, Bob Jacinto, or Jacino. And after I had pulled that furniture out of this area, I picked up a huge bag of trash, layers and layers of trash, human waste, clothing, mattresses, 3 couches, a chair, an easy chair, spoiled food, amazing amount of layers of trash, needles and syringes. This is the drain that was completely covered up and unable to drain the water that came off of Puente. You can see it there. You can't really see it. It's covered with all the trash. This is the backup of the drain off of Puente, and you can see there's, it's just stagnant water because it's not draining. This is my neighbor across the street. My house is at the end of the block there with the striped awning, and this is the kind of thing, because we live in this R3 zoned area, when people move out at the end of the month, they just put their stuff out that they're not going to take with them. They just put it out in the alley, and it's just against his fence. So, he's constantly having to call CR&R to come and pick this stuff up. But in the meantime, it'll sit there, and the people will come by and go, oh, well, this is a nice mattress, and they'll move it down into the canyon and try to live on it for a couple of days. This is when I contacted the city after I had spent a half a day. Oh, am I done? Spent a half a day cleaning this mess up. I contacted the city and talked to Brian Fields, and he sent a crew to pick up the furniture, and then about 2 weeks later sent a crew down in to clear the drain. You can see the drains being cleared there.
Mark, do me a favor, will you please? And
Yes.
Contact the city manager tomorrow, and we'll update you on some. You're talking to the right guy. If you're talking to Brian Fields, Brian will
Great.
help you out with that. Talk to the city manager, and folks, if you have any issues like this, always call code enforcement and call the cops. Code enforcement is 366.
Yeah, I've
4705.
talked to code enforcement.
I'm
Yeah.
telling everybody.
Okay, yeah.
And the police are, of course, 770-6011. Thank you
right.
thank you very much, sir.
You bet. Thank you.
Richard Gardner. Please,
Hello,
Mr. Gardner.
Bob, City Council. I'm Richard Gardner from Capistrano Beach, and I had 2 reasons for coming tonight. The first one was to compliment you on the grand opening of the Ole Henson Aquatic Center, and it really was a great activity. Great people, not just the staff, patriarch, matriarch, and it looks so great that the interior, the layout, it's, although it's now brand new, it's still the same. It's the same wonderful aquatic center that you have that no other city has that I'm aware of. So it's one more thing that the city of San Clemente is keeping and preserving and giving back to its residents. And the new things like the Vista Hermosa water park and pool, great. I mean, that's great too. It seems that each of the things that have been coming together in this town are the very top of the surrounding communities. And I could go on, but I think that list is worth making. You're checking them off, and they're happening. The other reason I came is that I wanted to mention that I am running for the Municipal Water District of Orange County, Div 7, which covers from San Clemente, Laguna Beach, Dana Point, and inland through San Juan Capistrano and Molten Miguel. I think it's a great time to reflect on our water, the water capabilities that we have, our water reliability, and bring together the right South Orange County agencies so that we can protect ourselves and our residents. I believe that in the case of South County, we're about 97% dependent for our potable water. So although you have a great deal of recycled water, you can't really drink it. So we really do need to have Plan B in place should we have a major problem. And I think that's where MoDOC can really help, especially as the interface to Metropolitan and bringing in the kind of grant money that we should get because we have the challenge here. We're at the end of the pipe. But anyway, so thank you for your time.
Thanks, Richard.
Bye.
Anthony.
If you think I like doing this, you're wrong. I'd rather be at home with my family. I do this for my kids because they do not have a voice. Ava O'Keefe does this for her kids, but you didn't listen. Well, now you're listening, and now the people are watching. It's no longer business as usual. This is the new norm. We are holding our elected officials accountable because we want to remind you that we do not work for you. You work for us. Are you really considering zoning a homeless shelter by Denny's where 500 of our little girls go to school every day? Okay, sure, yeah, it's more than 500 feet away. It's 700 feet away. It's still right across from our high school. This is insanity. This is reckless. And any one of you that votes to zone at Denny's will be found guilty of child endangerment in the eyes of the public here in San Clemente. Let me tell you what's going to happen. LA is going to send all of its people down on a train. They're going to get off in North Beach. They're going to walk 200 yards. They're going to go up to the shelter. And in 30 days, where do you think they're going to go? To the canyons. It's going to ruin that project. $3 million homes right there. The outlets. This is insanity. Ms. Donchek, there's a rumor that's circulating around town that you have a group that's ready to build a shelter and run it. I do not. You've denied this. I do not believe you. My slide, please. Ms. Donchek, when council was voting on VRBO a few months back, you voted not to pass the ordinance because you said that an 11th hour fax from the Coastal Commission came in, and this stalled your way of thinking. This is an email from Jim Bieber, beautiful guy, to you on January the 4th. Ms. Donchek, Mr. Bieber is your client. You already knew the way how you were going to vote on VRBO prior to the vote. I would argue that if you connect the dots, that you can pretty much figure out that you are going to do, that you are a client of Mr. Bieber. What's my point? You guys, we have to get along as a city council. You guys have to work together. Stop throwing each other under the bus. Charles Mann versus Jim Bieber versus the developers. You guys are in charge of our kids and the safety of our kids. It's time to work as a team. It's time to stop with the backstabbing and your self-serving agendas. When the children's safety is in your hand, we have to take that seriously. We're watching Denny's, we're watching how you zone, we're watching how you vote. I will tell you what's going to happen there if a shelter is built there. A girl is going to get hurt, raped, or worse. Is that how you want to vote?
Ben Duran, then Jeff Pattenkoff, and then Brad Malmud.
Hey guys, girls. Nice to see you all again. Thanks for your time. I wish I went to San Clemente High. It sounds like a great place. I spent the last few weeks coming home from work and looking at the banners that they call them from my balcony, and I'm beginning to like them even less than I did before. Our community is passionate about the issue, and more of our neighbors are learning that these banners are not even close to in scale of what the developer is seeking to display permanently. A lot of people don't know the magnitude of the signs that he wants to install. Our view is plastered with signs that were turned down 3 times already. A string of tenant-specific logos is not necessary. A tasteful mall identification sign would adequately inform motorists of its existence. Something along the lines of shopping or outlets may get the job done, but 20 variously colored and shaped logos is visual clutter. I don't believe it's complementary to the city's image. The thought of these signs being even larger and lit up at our night sky, brings sadness to all of our neighborhood. There's enough visual pollution just from the lighting without the signs. There's no signs north and south of the mall whatsoever. I'm not certain if the California Department of Transportation has denied signage, but I would think the mall would be trying to draw motorists in from many miles away. The original business plan of the mall was to include 85% of the revenue coming from outside sources. The stretch of freeway next to the mall is already a mess with the construction. To have motorists turn their head 90 degrees to see a logo is dangerous. To try and exit abruptly on the already crippled freeway is even more dangerous. We hear accidents all the time right behind our place. At 65 feet in height, I believe it's the tallest building in San Clemente. It's directly across the freeway from our neighborhood. It's obviously negatively impacted many of our views as well as our property value, but I understand that growth is inevitable. I was looking forward to the dining options, but after almost a year open, so far only one restaurant is open for dinner, but I guess there's a Ruby's coming soon. I wish success for the tenants and employees of the mall. I also wish that City Council and the Planning Commission can help soften the negative impact these signs will have on our community. I strongly believe in our ability as a community to reach a solution that satisfies all parties involved. With the elections right around the corner, we will see more residents getting involved with the community plans and proposals. This will be a hot topic, I'm sure. I saw it written somewhere that this election will come down to a vote between guys who put residents first versus guys who put developers first. I hope we can find a balance between the two. I'm not opposed to development, but I'd like to see it carried out with integrity and consideration of the residents of San Clemente. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. Jeff Pandakoff. Sarah Farnsworth. I might have skipped over your card there, Sarah. Sorry.
Hi, it's good to see you all again. I'm Jeff Panohoff, and I'm the president of the Fair Harbor HOA. I know that our current mayor and present council did not approve the outlet mall, so we can't change that. But what we can change is how it looks when it comes to lighting and signage. The current temporary banners have allowed us to see just how hideous the logo signs are, and they aren't even lit. Thank goodness for that. And now that we've seen these signs, it's easy for us to understand why every previous outlet mall sign application was either denied or overturned. It is our understanding that 3 outlet signs were grandfathered in, and those were signs identifying the outlet, not identifying the stores that are there. Currently, the outlet mall is in violation, I believe it's in violation, of San Clemente's Dark Skies Initiative to reduce light pollution, without any lighted signs on it. So just imagine how much more light pollution that's going to add. In addition, the building was said to be built in keeping with the Spanish architecture of our beautiful community. So adding huge lighted logo signs up and down that building is just going to destroy that aesthetic. And it already has. The banners have already destroyed the aesthetic of that building. Can you imagine lighted logo signs up and down Del Mar Avenue or up and down the pier? I mean, this is an opportunity for the mayor and the city council to deny this application from Steve Craig, who is actually clearly out of touch with the reality of how people shop and find malls today, using their smartphones, using PCs, tablets. We don't need logo signs all over the outlet mall for people to find it and know what's in it. So please make the right decision for San Clemente and our community, and please deny this sign proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pinkoff. Sarah Farnsworth and Brad Malamud.
Hello, my name is Sonia Farnsworth, but it's okay, my writing sucks.
I'm sorry about that.
I live in Fair Harbor, across from the outlet malls. So when I purchased my place, I knew there would be something there, so I'm good with that. It looks acceptable, although it did take up half my view. But until they put those banners up, I have to say, it's horrid. I mean, I would look out, see a lovely Spanish building, which is it's not the best. It took half my ocean view. But now I look out and I see this horrible Skechers multicolored banner, then Nike, then this, and it's just so, it's one thing to put up the outlets, but that's going the extra mile, which I understand was not to be, though I know that's a banner, now they're going to put up signs next. Those are just temporary with lights, and I know what this is like. I used to live in LA, where across from like Universal Studios, they went through this whole thing. All of a sudden, all the neighbors had lights in their homes all the time, and they fought that constantly. But this is San Clemente. I mean, this is a lovely ocean view place. We're not LA, and we should be able to look out our window and see maybe some rooftop in the ocean, but not have to look at signs, lit up signs, advertisements. It doesn't make sense anyway, when a sign should be on the freeway, as Ben said, to alert people if they don't know there's a mall. But most people have figured it out, either through the internet, what have you, from either side, or like Ben said as well, that maybe just a sign saying outlets. That's cool, make it nice, acceptable. Also, what I don't understand is when you get off the freeway, it says outlets, but it doesn't say what direction. So I'm constantly seeing people coming into well, even before, they do these bizarre U-turns, on the street, or they go on to Frontera doing squirrely U-turns, or come into our community and make their U-turns. So I think minimally, geez, they should say what direction the mall is. So anyway, I just think the banners should not exist, or signs in that fashion for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Farnsworth. Brad Malamud, then Robert Thompson, and then Marilyn Ferber.
Hello, Council. I'd like to say it's time for Best and Krieger in our city to adopt a most favored nation's billing rate for all future legal work in the city. I've asked for this repeatedly. I don't understand how the city's not adopted it. This will reduce city litigation costs by between 10 and 20%. In 2015, the County of Riverside decided to bring all work inside because it would reduce the county's reliance on outside counsel, and the efforts would save money and increase institutional expertise. That's the proposal I really think we should do, and I think the city should do it as quickly as possible. The current contract calls for $300 per hour for all attorneys on a blended rate, $220 for certified paralegals, whatever that is, and $145 for regular paralegals. By just going online, I found that Palm Desert, and this is the first person I could find, first company, BB&K charges them $276 for partners, $247 for other attorneys, $165 for certified workers. Why are we paying more? We're a bigger consumer of legal work. We should be paying less, not more. The city should look at hiring inside litigators to save the city the $500,000 of a $1 million contract or more. That's why Riverside did it. I don't know why we're not doing it. In-house lawyers cost between $250,000 to $400,000. I could show you a survey of local cities that have priced that out. Depends who you hire and how much, how much experience they are. But that's far less than 2,000 hours of billing at $300 an hour. The city would also have the ability then to talk at any time the city manager can walk down the hall and get advice. So I think we should move to in-house. I think it's time for the city to meet with interested groups of residents with legal backgrounds to come up with a better plan than what's happening now. The increased billing is probably approaching $2 million a year from $800,000 2 years ago. This is not this council is smarter than that. They've got to go to a better system. And I think that what I'm concerned about is that the city may get a lawsuit if they don't go to most favored nations, that this contract violates the California law against wasting city assets. There's nothing, I suspect Mr. Smith would agree to that. Why wouldn't he? If he's going to represent other cities with the same lawyers at a lower rate, we're a big city that are spending a lot of money. I think you should ask him tonight, will you agree to a most favored nations provision and amend the contract to do that? Everybody benefits. He benefits because he's now doing $2 million a year litigation rather than $800,000 a year of litigation. We should have the best rates because we're the big consumer. Use our power, save us money, okay? And hopefully, ultimately go to outside counsel. Inside counsel or a separate law firm. Mr. Smith can have either side of this deal as far as I'm concerned. He's a good man and he's a good lawyer. But being the city attorney and then making decisions and having the work go to your own firm, as I've told you over and over again, is a conflict of interest. Legal, but a conflict of interest. Thank you so much.
Robert Thompson, and then Marilyn Ferber. And Marilyn's the last card I have. Is there anybody else that would like to speak about something on the agenda? If you're, please, your item's on the agenda, sir. So we'll get to you in a little bit. But anybody else that would like to speak on something not on the agenda in the audience? Okay, please, Mr. Thompson.
No, I've almost sounded like Brad Malmuth here. I mean, I'm covering the same topic. Just that I almost sound like a broken record myself, because this is the third time I've talked before the city council on the cost of litigation. Now I want to emphasize the increased cost of litigation. As Brad Malmuth said, it was around $800,000 a year not too long ago. Now it's approaching $2 million a year. And when I worked for a large corporation, one of my jobs as an attorney was to keep us out of court. Because let's face it, we all figured that the cost of litigation, when you get into litigations, it's expensive, it takes manpower, it takes time, and uses up other resources that could be used for other purposes. Now, with our cost of litigation, we've had loss after loss after loss, and I don't want to assign any blame or anything to that. But right now, I'd like to say, is the city getting what they're paying for on legal cost? And that's about it. And I don't know if this is the right forum or not. I think I'll make this presentation to the candidate meeting on Thursday. So that gives the mayor about a 2-day head up on the rest of the candidates. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Thompson. Marilyn, are you here? Marilyn, thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to address the council again. Issue is the signage on the outlet mall. I live directly across from the community across from the outlet mall, and yes, we've accepted we need to have growth. We need to accept the mall. It's there. Our biggest concern are the banners, and as Jeff and Ben spoke to the matter, the banners are growing. The thought and the prospect of having permanent signs affixed to the wall and the lighting, to me, it just screams out commercialism. It's almost like Las Vegas, the glitzy strip, that's out, and Cabazon, it's out in the desert. There's nothing else there, and it adds to the environment. Having signs that are lit up really will remove the beauty and the integrity of our city. I understand, and I don't know if this can be documented, but I understand the city of Laguna Beach and Newport Beach, they have strict signage laws. They've somehow been able to be free of them. I hope you really consider even if I weren't living across, and I have lived in 2 other homes at the south end of town, and I wouldn't have been impacted, and that's not the issue. It's not just my own vested interest, so I don't have to look at it. The big issue is anywhere in town, you're going to be driving around, and you're just going to see these garish, tacky signage. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. All right, that's it for public comment then, unless anybody's got one more card, okay? Thank you.
Okay. Can we have a motion to waive reading in full of
So
all?
moved.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Brown, second by Ward, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passed unanimously.
Closed session report, city attorney.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. We did have some reportable action this evening on, in closed session, the council had unanimously requested that the city attorney's office the council withdrew its direction to the city attorney's office to file a declaratory relief action seeking court direction on the by-district initiative that's pending on the ballot. Last week, we received notice that AB 278 was signed by the governor, and that mooted the issue that the council sought direction on in that case. So we will respond to that direction, filing that action. Under the city negotiations with the city manager, the council set terms for the city manager's contract that it instructed us to carry to the manager, which we did during the break. The manager accepted the proposed amendments to his contract. We'll give those out specifically when you come to that item in the public agenda, and we'll help you interrelate the contract to the terms that were offered and accepted by the manager.
Okay. Thank you, Scott.
All items listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion without discussion, unless council, staff, or the public request removal of an item for separate discussion and action. The public has requested the removal of items G and K.
Kathy, you have anything? Tim? Lori? Nothing for me either.
Move the balance.
Second.
Motion by Donchak, second by Brown. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed unanimously. All right, item G, huh? Mr. Petchus, do you want to say something about that before the public speaks? Or let's let the public speak and see what their questions are first. JP and Diana Spitz, I have a card for Mr. Spitz. Sir, would you like to speak for 3 minutes? And then Diana, would you like to speak for 3 minutes? Not, okay, well, good. That's quite all right. It's quite all right.
I could speak for 20, but I'm just going to read.
I'm here to keep it to 3.
My name's J.P. Spitz. This is my wife, Diana. I came to San Clemente in 1963. Opened up a barber shop across the street. I became the hospital chaplain of San Clemente Hospital. My kids graduated from the school, and we love San Clemente dearly. And we have a concern that we have because we feel like at times that we're fighting a system that needs us. Do you hear me? We're fighting a system that needs us. We represent an organization called Kathy's House, which is a religious 501(c)(3). I see you smiling. You must have heard about it. We've been in existence since 1977.
No, 97.
97. Our main purpose, to put it simply, is to help people in crisis. To date, Kathy's House has successfully reestablished nearly 1,300 people back into society. That's both men, women, and families. And we literally are also representing virtually every church in South Orange County. because every church, when they come in contact with these people, they know to call us. We're the only entity in South Orange County where a man can lay his head down for free. None of our services have ever cost anyone a dime. We work for it. And the way we work for it is we have thrift stores. We opened a thrift store many, many years ago in Capo Beach. We have one in San Juan Capistrano. We have one La Tienda thrift store in San Clemente, and we've signed a lease to put in a thrift store in the old Baker Square building. I love that building. My daughter's first job was there. I used to eat at Sambo's every day. I lived right across the street. I live within walking distance now at the coast. And we're here to help the community, to deal with families. We came very, very prepared, but we have two people in the audience, Miles and Jeff, who were born in San Clemente, went to San Clemente High School, fell into trouble, and got their lives all messed up. They came to us and are rehabilitated, and they're both managers of our thrift store. So we're here, and we're concerned about the agenda that thrift stores were, first of all, put in the same situation as smoke shops and can I go a little longer?
You know what? Diana can turn a card in for you, and you can. We'll give Diana 3 minutes, and you can help him speak for 3 more minutes.
So you wanna,
Is that okay?
Sure.
You can keep going. We'll give you another.
Okay.
Sure, but you have to turn in another card when you're done.
Yeah. So we're here to mother and father the abused. You know, we're not here to do anything but make disciples of Jesus Christ. That's what we are, and that's what we do. We believe that that's the key to changing homelessness, alcohol abuse, mental illness, and everything else. And so we're concerned about our thrift store, that we're going to run into trouble. And we've already signed a lease. Oh, okay, I thought you wanted to stop me. Okay, we pay for people's medical care, dental, food, clothing, and shelter at no cost. Without a thrift store, there's no income to provide for the needy of this city. Without agencies like us, the demographic of people become a liability to the city, and homelessness expands. We have made a lasting impact for the benefit of San Clemente. Please join us in support of our mission to make the city a better place now and for years to come.
All right, well, Mr. Spitz, if you'll let us ask a couple of questions here. We got some questions of staff, and Mr. Brown, you look like you're ready to ask a question here.
I guess let's proceed. Let's hear what Jim has to say, and then I
All right, yeah. Look, we got to hear from city staff, and then we may have some questions for you. So
Sure.
that is the only card, unless there's somebody else who wants to
Excuse me,
speak.
may I leave, we put together a flyer of who we are and what we do, and on one page for each of you, just to have. Would that be all right? We can
Certainly.
give that to you?
Certainly.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Did you have another speaker?
Yeah. All right. Well, ma'am, if you want to speak about this, please come up and speak. Then we'll have some questions for Jim in a minute. This is Lori Moore.
Hello. I just moved to San Clemente 2 years ago from Northern California and came from a very protected, wonderful city called Moraga and raised my children there and moved to San Clemente, and I'm literally doors away from La Tienda and the halfway house that they live in. And when I first moved here, I was a little intimidated by the whole situation. But I have come to know these guys and the people that work in the thrift store, and I have to tell you, I have never met more upstanding citizens, respectful gentlemen in my life. And I go there all the time. I shop there. I've had a couple of them come and work for me doing handyman work. And I can't say enough good things about them. And I just see the difference they've made in these men's lives. And I've heard their stories and where they came from. And I could just start crying right now because they do an incredible service. And I don't see anywhere in our country that they rehab people like this and encourage them to get back in society and be functional and, you know, go back and get employed. And so I just heard about this literally an hour before this meeting started, and I felt so compelled to come down and speak my story because I don't think anyone appreciates, unless they have been in there and get to know these people, what a difference they've made in so many people's lives. And it would be devastating to lose the thrift store there and what they're doing for San Clemente and for a lot of Orange County. And I work for a company called Gentle Transitions. We help older adults move from their homes to retirement communities. We've been in business 22 years. They recently started a moving company called Solid Rock Movers. They worked with me on a job, and they were the best movers we've ever hired in our company in 22 years. So they're expanding it, they're reaching out, they're trying new things, they're finding ways to employ these people. And to me, I couldn't imagine why San Clemente or any other city or even the state would do something to get rid of the thrift store that supports this kind of thing. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. What's that? Right. Mr. Petches, we've got some questions for you.
Okay.
All right. Tim, you want to start there?
Sure. Could you just walk through exactly what part of the amendment to the zoning ordinance, when you consider location requirements, does this always mean that it's going to have restrictions at the end of it? What was it that, just for the benefit of the public, what is it that usually means at the end of the process?
So what we're doing tonight is we're initiating an amendment to look at several different types of uses, and basically we would be considering different options to see if there's any particular needs that need to be evaluated for each individual use. Doesn't mean that we're going to necessarily do anything at all or change the regulations. It's going to be a process where the Planning Commission studies it along with staff, and the community, of course, would be involved in that process. And then recommendations would come forward to the City Council. And the recommendations in past, sometimes we've had similar situations where we've been directed by City Council to evaluate a situation, and the recommendation coming forward is, hey, leave it the same. Other times it was, it'll be, maybe we should be allowed in these certain zones because it's more compatible with the kinds of uses in those particular zones.
That's it. Thank you.
Lori, you got anything?
I did have a question in terms of thrift stores, smoke and vape shops, check cashing stores, pawn shops. What do those four things have in common that make them subject to the same contemplation?
That was a direction from the City Council. It wasn't staff initiated, so I guess I'd have to turn the question back over to you.
That's how I remember it.
Okay,
That's exactly how I remember it, Jim.
Okay. So as you go forward, will you find us examples from other cities and
Absolutely.
Because and help us understand the right way to think about this?
We'll look at each use and give you examples of the cities and how they're regulated or not regulated.
Because
as
it
part of the
looks like in
consideration.
other California cities, things like gun stores, I mean, there's a whole collection of things, and I'm having a hard time figuring out what they all have in common. So I'm hoping that you're going to help us with that, because thrift stores doesn't, I remember the conversation when a council person asked to have this agendized, but then when you see it in paper, it's kind of like, is this the right four things?
Okay.
Jim, wasn't it that for, not necessarily that the uses go together, but just that in our zoning might be a little deficient on these type of uses? And we were looking at maybe some regulations that we could add, if any. It's
Yeah.
not so much that they're lumped together, it's just ones that we had a deficit in.
Each use is a little bit unique from other uses in the zone, so we're looking at, potential, ways to regulate those uses based on the uniqueness of those uses.
Okay, that's what I remember.
All right, and this would be a question for the city attorney here, and for you, sir. If the city council was to send this to the planning commission and ask for their recommendation, and Mr. Spitz already had a lease for a thrift store at the old Baker Square, this would not apply to him retroactively, is that correct?
It could not constitutionally apply to him, correct?
Did you hear that, sir? It could not apply to you constitutionally. It's not allowed. So we will probably ask the planning commission to take a look at all these things. However, it does not affect you because you already have a lease, and we'll be making, should we change these, should we decide to change these, it doesn't affect you. Do we understand that? Did I explain that correctly, Scott?
Yeah, thank you.
Mr.
Jim?
Spitz, if you would have, I'm sorry, if you wouldn't mind leaving your contact details with the city manager, I'd like to get in touch with you, better understand, what it is you do. This is great, but, sounds like there's a great operation. I'd love to learn more about it.
I just like to clarify with the city attorney, because there's been some question on whether it's the commencement of a lease agreement or a commencement of actually opening the shop. If that would matter one way or the other.
I'm sorry, I understood that the use had commenced, but we would be looking mostly at the use, not just the signing of a lease. So I didn't understand if the lease we were talking about include an active use or not.
Yeah. He's leased the property and he's working on the tenant improvements in order to occupy the site.
Oh, if the tenant improvements are underway, then we could not interfere with that pre-existing use.
Okay. So once he starts actually doing his building permits,
It's
then
permits and some reliance on.
Are the tenant improvements underway, sir?
I have not got a permit, a demo permit. We've been down to the city 3 times to try to get a business license.
Okay, all right, will you?
We've not been able to do that, but I had a good meeting with, was it this morning or yesterday?
Yes, this morning.
This morning, and we're on our way.
Okay. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Spitz, so if you got more issues, you're talking to the right man here. Mr. Petches is the right man for this job, and we're probably going to look at these things, but you're not involved, so.
Can we clarify, though, if they have not started any tenant improvements and they have not applied for any permits, would they be subject to any requirements that we might add for that use?
Maybe operational ones, but not with regard to location and placement.
No,
They would
but
have to be
how about
relating to safety and not zoning.
Okay.
Do you hear that, sir? It would be relating to safety. All right.
Did you have a question? Yeah.
Yes, I have a statement, if I could.
Well, all right, go ahead, sure.
This is
All right.
an issue that's a crisis right now. And it concerns the movement to get sober living homes out. The people.
Well, sir, this is an unrelated topic here.
Okay, because.
Come back to oral communication.
But we have some men that are going to be homeless out of that, out of our home for the thrift store because code enforcement has come and we have an issue. So we're going to have about 6 men homeless.
Well, Mr. Spitz,
So-
this is a completely
Okay,
separate
I
issue,
understand.
and anyway. Any more questions for Mr. Petches? Anything we need to know about this, Mr. Petches? City manager, anything we need to know about this? No? All right, thank you. Anybody want to make a motion?
I move that we initiate the amendment process. Do I need to read that? Do I need to read it?
It helps people watching.
I move that we initiate an amendment to the zoning ordinance that considers locations, requirements related to thrift stores, smoke and vape shops, check cashing stores, and pawn store uses.
I'll second it with the additional direction that this go to Planning Commission before it return to City Council, and that staff make every effort to look at other models and best practices in other California cities.
Okay, motion by Brown, second by Don Checker. Was the maker of the motion all right with that?
Yeah, that's fine. I would also, I'd also leave a little bit of this open in case there are ancillary use that were not specified in this amendment that someone have a relation to, that we would be able to look at those if we find model ordinances that we want to draft after. Does that make sense? Yeah. Right, so if there's some part of this that we're not considering that does have a related use, then so be it.
I'm trying to find something, but
I don't know.
Okay.
Who knows what staff will come up with?
Okay. Motion by Brown, second by Don Check. Staff have enough direction there. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passed unanimously. All right, on to K.
This item was pulled by the public. Do you want to, before staff does a presentation, let the public come up and speak to it, Mayor?
And Mrs. Spitz, be sure and fill out a card. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you. All right, okay, so we'll hear from the public first then, and Mr. Brad Malamud.
Council, the item in front of you, the city ignored the general plan and created a new spot zoning for the hospital. Mr. Smith opined that the spot zoning is legal. The gambit didn't work. The hospital is closed. The lawsuit was filed. The solution is simple. Put the original zoning back. That will end the lawsuit for all intents and purposes. Both Mr. Bates and Mr. Brow told the council not to rezone the property. You didn't follow that advice, and it would have been good advice. That's what I've been told. Maybe it's not true. But either way, let's put it back to the original zoning, and the lawsuit will disappear. That will save us $800,000. It's not important whether Mr. Smith or I am correct, but if you simply rezone the property to what it was, the lawsuit, the taking, disappears. So this council needs to be smart. I think they are smart. We have 5 smart council members. Nobody wants to have a lawsuit. Why wouldn't we do something that would get rid of the lawsuit? I'm asking you tonight, I know it's not agendized to do it, but I'm asking you tonight to agendize it for 2 weeks from now to put the zoning back where it was. That will effectively end the lawsuit. Ask Mr. Smith. There might be some ancillary issues, but it won't cost $800,000 that the city loses regardless of whether Mr. Smith is correct. It just doesn't matter. And if we do lose that lawsuit, what will happen is we'll have to pay memorial care fees. So we're probably talking about $1.5 million of legal bills, and you're not approving that tonight. Again, if you're going to approve this tonight, do not approve this without a most favored nation rate structure. Paying $300 per hour is obscene. It's probably illegal, as I've told you before, and it's certainly not in the city's best interest. So if you're going to approve this litigation, approve it at most favored nations provisions. Does everybody in council understand what that is? Is there any question about what that is? Is there any question why we're not doing that? Why we would give the law firm more money than they charge any other city? Why would anybody do that? It's litigation. It's not Mr. Smith's advice, which is expensive but good advice. So I'm asking you to do 2 things to sum up. First, return the zoning to the hospital site so that we can get rid of this litigation. The hospital is not going to be built by them. And if the zoning gets returned, a hospital can still be built on that site. So we're not giving up anything. Second, agree that all future BB&K litigation bills are to most favored nations provision. If you can't tell me why you won't do those 2 things tonight, or at least agendize the first and do the second, then you need to tell the citizens why you want to be reelected and spend their money judiciously. Thank you guys very, very much.
Well, customarily, I don't respond to things from there, but the reason we're not going to do what you asked, Mr. Malamud, is to try and get that hospital open so that we can save people's lives. And that is the issue here. If we, well, we'll see about that. Go ahead.
So just to convey to the council, first Eric Sund, Assistant City Manager. So as part of the new fiscal year budget for 2016, 2017, we told the council we were going to do a different structure with legal fees. So as new matters came before the city, we would bring those cost estimates to the city council. And as part of tonight's actions, we're bringing 3 items to the council's attention. The case budget for memorial care litigation, the case budget for a CEQA writ with San Clemente Vacation Rental Alliance, and then a case budget for sovereign health litigation. And so as you can see from the attachments provided in the staff report, BBK's done an outline of the services and kind of the approximate amounts for each of those categories of service. By tonight's action, if council approves this, we will go ahead and encumber specific budget monies from the budget and set it aside to deal with these cases through fiscal year 2016 and 17. And then also for informational purposes, attachment 4, we provided a breakdown of city attorney fees relative for July 1st, 2015 through June 30th, 2016. And that's broken up into 5 categories: retainer, general counsel overage, litigation, special services, and reimbursables. So it gives you a little bit of a snapshot looking backwards out of last fiscal year. With that, I stand ready to answer any questions, and I know that Scott also is here, can answer any questions the council.
Somebody have a question for Eric?
I do have a question. It's on 2 parts. The first of all is that you know, there were different rates that were quoted by BB&K, and I think it's important to realize that our basic services for our paraprofessionals, for our paralegals, it was quoted at $220, but it's actually $180, and the non-attorneys are at $130. So we have a basic services component that is really the vast majority of our legal fees and then litigation services, which I think is what fits in the budgets we're discussing tonight. The second part of it is and just for my edification, because the hospital seems to be on it, there was some costs that we were going to incur in terms of increased ambulance services and other public safety costs upon the closure of the hospital annually. And I remember that number to be over $1 million easily.
3, I swear.
1, 2. So with the hospital closure now, just so that I understand, we face an ongoing annual budget increase of $1.2 million just to maintain the same level of services to our community, to try and even accommodate. And by the way, it can't do that because it's impossible, because there still is an additional drive up to Mission. And so just to accommodate that, we're going to be spending $1.2 million more a year in public safety costs. What we're talking about is a litigation budget that is less than 1 year's expense of that increased public safety cost to at least explore what we have in front of us. To me, this is an absolute no-brainer. We have to pursue this option because we're on the hook right now as it is for those public safety costs, and we'll provide it because that's our duty as the city council. But make no mistake about it, this isn't exactly like we walk away from this with the hospital being rezoned as, oh great, we're all even. We're all of a sudden in the hole, $1.2 million now, because we have to transport and we have to provide a level of service to our residents that make sure that they have those emergency services still available. And we're not getting any compensation for that. There's no side benefit on that. That just comes directly from our general fund. And so to me, what we're talking about is a fraction of what our litigation expenses are to explore maintaining that emergency room use on that site. I think it has value, frankly. Anyway, those are my 2 cents. As the city services, we've done some litigation over the time I've been here. This is the first time, and I think it's great that we've been able to come ahead of time with a budgeted litigation expense, because I think the public really should know exactly what we're pursuing on their behalf. And so it is a little bit unprecedented, but it's welcome precedent. And the last part of this is I think every penny spent regarding our litigation on the sober living, defending the sober living home ordinance is worth it. And so I have zero concerns about those expenses.
I want to say there's no getting around the fact that it's troubling that our legal costs have gone up, but also as a community, we've been faced with almost the perfect storm in terms of things going on that have profound effects on our quality of life. And this council's been asked to step up and take a position, and there are some costs associated with that. So I appreciate that we can get ahead of it financially. I'm going to ask that you report to us quarterly so that if there's a change or there's no surprises, that this is not carte blanche. We need to see that the money's moving the way that it's intended. And then on the hospital, I agree with everything Councilmember Baker Brown.
That's me. Third time's the charm.
Yeah, got it. Said about the hospital, what is extremely preoccupying for me is that $42.5 million if the ruling doesn't go in San Clemente's favor. And so I'm going to ask also that we be vigilant on that, and if there does come a time when in BBK's estimation, because you are the professionals, that it goes from being better than a 50-50 chance, there's new information, there's a shift in the willingness for the hospital to enter into conversation with us, you make every effort to let us know and also steer us in the correct way, because that's basically a year of our operating budget that would go out the door if the outcome on this case doesn't go San Clemente's way. So those are my comments.
I just wanted to say I appreciate the costs being all measured out, and none of this money is spent yet. It's just estimated. If we do go down that road and we do prepare for trial, we will. This is what the cost is going to be. So I want everyone to understand that this is not money spent yet. We have not lost $42 million. We are just looking into that. So I thank you for it, Scott. I thought it was good, and it is unprecedented to see it like this, and I think it's a benefit to the public to see how much we're doing and how much we have to do to stand up for the sober living and vacation rental ordinance. So I think it's good to have it spelled out. Thank you.
Well, I don't want to comment on how odd it sounds to have a public benefit corporation suing the city in which it's supposed to be providing public benefit for lost profits. It's a very odd concept to me. Scott, would you please talk about spot zoning? I've heard those words a few different times. Would you talk about the hospital and spot zoning, please?
Sure, I'm happy to do that. Spot zoning is a notion in the California common law that prohibits a city from singling out property that's really similar to properties around it or properties like it, and unreasonably restricting the use of that property. So it's kind of singling out a property for no apparent reason for more restrictive zoning. The reason that, and we've said this publicly, the reason that we thought that notion had no application here is because the California government code requires that a city designate property for critical facilities, including emergency facilities in its general plan. And so we think it's a funny idea that what's required by state law in terms of designation of critical facilities could be characterized as spot zoning. You see why that's kind of funny. That means that the state would be requiring that every city in the state spot zone, and we just don't think that's a legitimate reading of the law, the common law or that statute relating to general plan designations.
Okay, and would you talk about most favored nation and that concept?
Yeah, I can, the abstract. If we want to talk about my contract, then I'd want to do that, not as your advisor. But that idea is that if there's, as I understand it, is that if one client or one customer is afforded a particular rate and then a discount's given to the next customer, the first customer would have the right to the same discount. Why we think anything's possible, except that would be very difficult to implement here, because the well, I don't think the rates overall, your general rates are much lower than other clients' general rates. The specialized rates are higher than others, but the way that was priced when we were engaged was based on the service team that the council and staff wanted to select. And so to do most favored nation status, we could find out the literal specific staffing hour by hour of each attorney by each client in our portfolio. But they don't price generically. The most senior litigator, like Jeff Dunn, who's working on these cases, prices very differently from another litigator who might be working for another client. So I don't even know how you do that. You'd have to know hour by hour which lawyers are working on which matters to do an apple-by-apple comparison. It works for widgets and apples and products. I don't know how it works with lawyers who are very distinctly priced based on their experience and expertise.
Well, do all cities that contract with BBK specify the same number of hours worked per week or month or year?
They might. No, they don't. The amount of service and the number of hours differs a lot by clients, whether that's on the general service prong or the specialized service prong. What's really different, and I don't really want to comment on publicly, is who's working those matters. And some clients are kind of indifferent to that. If they carry a BB&K card, they're happy to have them come and do their work. This council doesn't exactly think like that. And so I'm honored by that, and so are the colleagues that work on your team. But I would say that our staffing here is generally quite top-heavy. The council's, because of the items that have been mentioned and their complexity and the stakes that you've all mentioned, you've prescribed a particular service team from the time that we showed up 2 years ago to this week. It's very particular and driven a lot by the amount of work and the blend of work and the lawyers who are working on it. And I think if you took all that and could distill it down, you'd find that the city's on parity, if not in better shape, than other clients that have been referenced earlier.
Say that last part again.
I think if you drilled that down to who's working on what in what amount and their credentials and seniority at our firm, you'd find that you're on exact parity with any other client that you might be compared with. But that would be a very tedious and very labor-intensive effort, as you understand.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions for any?
I think it's important to look at both of these cases. These are items that have come to us that we didn't go pursuing. You know, this isn't us going and saying, how can we throw away, hundreds of thousands of dollars of legal fees. These are items where we had to take strong action. I would think differently if we were out pursuing new projects or development projects and risking things and doing items. But ultimately, we're just looking to preserve, frankly, a certain quality in terms of public service, and also preserve a zoning characteristic in our R1 neighborhoods and peace in these different neighborhoods. So, I'd hate for the public to think that we're trying to go out and incur legal expenses. We're reacting as best as we can and trying to be proactive based on what we think the community wants. And I just have to reiterate, I think 1.2 was the low end estimate of our increased public safety costs, of what it's going to cost with the hospital closure. And so I have to reiterate, if we're going to have an option to be able to pursue at least an emergency room in the service in this community, it's worth it. It is worth it, because we're going to be faced with millions of dollars of increases over the next years when this is just a one-time legal cost to explore that option.
And if I remember correctly, the zoning that we changed at the hospital allowed the hospital to do more things in the current zoning than they could have.
Yeah, the current
before.
zoning is more liberal than the zoning when the hospital came to town to open a hospital. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anything else you want to add, Mr. Sun?
No, I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay.
Otherwise, my
Okay.
staff
With that, I
report's
move that we
complete.
approve the estimated legal costs for the 3 cases noted in the administrative record report dated October 1st, 2016, on file with City Clerk, and approve a supplemental appropriation from the fund balance and other in the general liability fund, the amount of $990,000 legal services account 068-816-436-4000000000.
Motion by Brown, second by
Second.
Ward. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passed unanimously.
Next item is a report from the Public Works Director, City Engineer, concerning implementing a rideshare beta test rider.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Bill Cameron, Public Works Director. And tonight I was just going to give a little introduction to this project and then turn it over to our Transportation Engineering Manager, Tom Frank, who will be giving a more detailed staff report along with recommendations for awarding the contract to Lyft for this new program. There's two main drivers leading to the cities to implement the program. The first is that OCTA made the decision to eliminate two underperforming bus routes that didn't meet the requirements of ridership. And the second is that Measure M2 has a provision in it, a Project V, that is for community-based transit and circulator bus program, and that's set up for local agencies to develop projects and administer. It can't be done by OCTA. So our staff's been working on this for quite a while now. Our staff doesn't have any experience in providing transit services. This is something brand new to us. We don't know the federal and state regulations. And fortunately, the OCTA staff's been very helpful in assisting us to better understand what opportunities and pitfalls there are in trying to provide a service like the one we're talking about to the public. And they've given us a lot of encouragement, including funding for 2 years, $450,000 per year, to help get this innovative program underway. And the bus routes that are going to be eliminated are 191 and 193, and their service ends this Saturday, October 8th. And our goal has been to try to start the new rideshare program as close to that date as possible. And I honestly don't know if we're going to make that. It's awfully tight when there's only a few days to go. But to accelerate the commencement of the program, there's really no time to do a pilot test, like utilizing a small sample of riders to see how the program's going to implement. So basically, we expect there's going to be some challenges as we try to start it up, both with the public that'll be using it, because it is a little more complicated than just your normal call up from one location and it'll take you to wherever you want to go. And that'll be described a little bit later by Tom. And I'd also like to mention that Lyft's been very cooperative during the negotiations with them, and we expect that cooperation to continue as we try to work the bugs out of the system as we find them. Just as importantly, though, there are funding limitations, as Project V is providing a limit of $450,000 each year. And under the original concept that we were working from, it was intended to give bus riders an option to the routes that are going to be eliminated. So we've been trying to develop the program in that manner. So there's going to be some limitation on where the rideshare riders will be picked up and dropped off, and the travel will only be within the city limits. And there's a number of reasons for that that will also be discussed. And to the best of our knowledge, there's currently about 150 riders per day on the combined routes. And we really don't know how many will use the new program or how many new people might want to join the program once it gets underway. But just to put this into perspective a little bit, with a $450,000 grant, and assuming the rider pays a $2 part of the ride, the minimum ride would be $5. So that means the minimum that would be subsidized would be $3 per ride. So if you divide that into $450,000, that's a potential of 150,000 rides per year if we stay within budget. Lyft actually thinks the average, excuse me, average ride may be around $7. So if Project B pays $5, that knocks it down to 90,000 riders per year, or about 247 riders per day on average. The maximum subsidy from OCTA under Project V is $9. So that means the total fare would be $11 at the max. And at that rate, if everybody maxed out, that would be 50,000 per year, or 137 riders per day. So realistically, we're going to end up somewhere with the ability to service 140 to 250 riders per day. And so that's one of the reasons that we need to build in some controls on the project and who's using it, what the purpose is. Those are some of the things that will come out tonight. And if the program's heavily used and the OCTA funding runs out, my experience has been that we don't normally receive additional funding when it's a set program through OCTA. So that would leave, or it would leave it up to the city, or the city could try to request more funds, or the city could put more funds into it, or stop the program before the end of the year if the funds run out. So those are some of the things that we've been working on over the last couple of months. So now I'd like to have Tom Frank give you the details.
Great. Thank you, Bill. Good evening, Council and Honorable Mayor. I'm just going to give you a brief overview of our efforts since I was last in front of you when the Council accepted the cooperative agreement, and then outline the program which we're asking you to approve a contract with Lyft. Before I get going, I have two representatives from Lyft here with me tonight. I have Debs Schrimmer and Tim Houghton, and they've been gracious enough to be here. And when I'm done explaining the program, if you have particular details regarding how to use the Lyft application or their operations, I'm going to ask them to come up and explain their operations, since they know it much better than I do. So, as I mentioned, last time we were here in front of City Council, it was on August 2nd, and at that meeting you approved the cooperative agreement and accepted the grant funds from OCTA. Following that meeting, we worked closely with OCTA and gathered as much information as we could regarding the few existing programs that were in creation, and we developed an RFP, and we issued the RFP, and we received 4 proposals from that RFP effort. Compiled a selection review committee. There's 3 people from the city's Public Works Department and 1 representative from Orange County Transit Authority. And the effort of our review resulted in Lyft receiving unanimously the highest rating from all the 4 proposals. In addition, they also received outstanding reference checks. The average fare, as Bill mentioned, is quoted around $7 per ride. That's based on the type of ride, and there's 2 types of rides that we'll be offering. There's the Lyft Classic and then the Lyft Plus. The Lyft Classic is a typical 4-seater, probably a smaller car. The Lyft Plus is a larger vehicle that can accommodate more luggage, or if you have a fold-up wheelchair or something, that can accommodate that sort of a ambulatory transit as well. And there's a little bit more cost involved in the Cost Plus, and I'll get into that in a little bit more detail. The scope of the problem will operate similar to the hours of the existing bus route service, and that's from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day of the year. The ride service requires riders to order the rides through a computer application on your smartphone. It actually needs to be done through like an Apple iOS, I think that's how you say it, or an Android platform. Tim, you probably know the language I'm referring to. And riders will not have a call-in option for these rides. The transit rideshare program will pick up, actually, if we could pull up my presentation, I want to show a graphic on this. The rideshare program will pick up rides at safe locations within 250 feet of existing bus stop locations, and initially we'll also be dropping off riders at 250 feet of existing bus stop locations. That's the easiest to implement. We're hoping in the future we might be able to relax the drop-off zone slightly to be more flexible for the users, but we also, as Bill mentioned, we want to gauge how popular the program is and gauge what kind of controls we need to keep in place to make this program successful over the life of the contract. Lyft could go into this more detail if you have like detailed questions on it, but the way that we're able to do this with the application is Lyft establishes geofencing around each of the bus stops for that 250-foot radius, and they also have in their programming the capabilities to restrict this program to the hours that we're presenting it, from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. And the way they do that is through a couponing system, which they would issue the coupons. We talked actually today, and unless if there's hiccups, I believe the coupon code is, well, I'm not even sure if I should air that at this point, but I think we're working out the details of some of the marketing components of the program. Let's see, so getting into the ride fares for the particular rides which people will be ordering. As Bill mentioned, we're going to have a minimum rider share for each ride, and that's going to be $2 per ride, and it has to be done through electronic payment required through the application. The subsidy, the OCTA subsidy, is up to $9 per ride.
Excuse me for 1 second. Is this too much detail for us? This is not your.
This is great. And
This is the detail. All right.
This is the
okay.
reason why this is great is because this is going to be, it's going out to the public. They need to understand this program. It's something that's coming very quickly, and these are good details for everyone to be aware of.
Okay.
Okay.
Please go on, Tom. Sorry.
So, I'm going to also give examples of what the pricing structure would be, but basically fares exceeding $11 will also be the responsibility of the rider. So as an example, what the ride cost would look like is if the cost of the Lyft ride was the minimum $5 for that ride, the Project V share would be $3 and the rider share would be $2. And then I won't read all of this table in front of you, but you can see how it transpons to the rider costs. And I'll just leave it at an $11 cost, or actually at a $13 Lyft ride, the Project V would still be at $9 maximum, and the rider share would be $4.
So how much does a ride cost from the southern end of San Clemente to the northern end of San Clemente on Lyft?
It depends on actually the time of day, like if there's surge pricing or prime time pricing, but typically that was around $11. So that would still be within the $2 ride share.
And when you talk about the V share, I believe, don't we have a 10% match in that as a city?
We do, right, but that can also be covered by the rider fare.
So in your assumptions here, the Project V share is OCTA money only?
That's correct.
Okay. Oh, so you're saying that the way the grant works is the rider's contribution can also be recognized as that 10% match?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, Bob, to give you an idea, I actually checked out Lyft to come up here to the council chambers today. It was $5 for me to ride from my house up here from station to station. So for me, that would have been a $2 ride for me to get to council chamber. So the next time you call me for a ride, I'm going to tell you to call Lyft, just so you're aware. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's great.
Tom, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
while we're on the costs, what is the plan after 2 years when OCTA is not funding it anymore? Are we looking at the city would potentially raise the rate to help pay for the full share?
Well, that's quite a ways out, and we're working closely with OCTA staff. They're very interested in this program. It's really cutting edge, and we're really going to be studying the data, not even a year. I mean, we're going to be studying it month to month, and we're keeping open communications with them on not only, how the funding is going and how the ridership is going, but other possible options to improve the system, improve the programs.
Great, thank you.
Yep. With my OCTA hat on, OCTA is looking at this with great interest because District 5 is often underserved on some programs, and the board is fully aware that we're having our bus service removed in lots of big parts, and so they're looking for other ways to make it fair and equitable in the spirit of Measure M. So it's a great question because, and also the other question is, what's our definition of success? Because,
Well, I think
Mine's always staying within budget, so.
Well, that's true. That was kind of the unspoken part of my question, or answer to my question, yes.
All right, so where we're at today is we're obviously coming to you requesting your approval to authorize the city manager to execute a contract with Lyft, subject to our city attorney's approval. The city attorney has graciously offered to review the agreement that we draft, a draft agreement, within a short time frame. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to get that to him, so that's where Bill's concern is, whether he can literally launch this thing by Sunday. But I do have a draft written, and I am going to transmit it to our city attorney for his review. And we're hoping it can be done. Lyft has been very gracious, as Bill said, and very cooperative in working with us to try and launch this thing by this Sunday. So that kind of concludes the operational part of the program. I did want to go into a bit of the marketing efforts to try and get the word out on what's happening. And with such a short time frame that we've been working with, I have a two-tiered approach to our marketing or public information program. The first is pretty minimal, but it would include a press release informing the public of the change and how to get the information on the new program. Also, OCTA is distributing OC Access Transportation changes through their website and through information, emails, and every venue which they have. They're also updating their call center operators to have frequently asked questions on the program, so that'll be another venue where they share the information. And then they have an ambassador program that has been riding the current buses, the 191 and 193, informing the riders of the pending change. And so we have been getting calls on the new program, and that'll continue through tomorrow. We did, for the interim name at least, we vetted that through our mobility task force, and we came up with the name SC Ride with Lyft. And so you'll see that we're using similar font that we've used on other San Clemente branding efforts. And then I believe we'll probably use Lyft's brand as well, their logo. And that concludes my staff presentation. As I mentioned, I know you're probably going to have more questions regarding operations, which we...
Tom, when we're finished here, will you email that slide right there to me, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I had just one really quick. On liability for this, is that carried by Lyft or is that the city? Is that built into the contract?
It is built into the contract, right. So we're working through those clauses, the insurance and the indemnity clauses.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I just want to say I really appreciate to staff all the work that you're doing, the 150 riders a day who are going to be displaced on this. They really appreciate all the work that you've been doing, and I know this has been under great pressure, time-wise, and you're really close. So, really appreciate that. I kind of wish that the ambassadors were still riding until this weekend to pick up the weekend riders and let them know, but I don't know if that's a request that could be made.
I can pass it along.
Okay. Because I don't know if that's the case, if there are riders that only ride it on the weekend and they're not going to know about this. So, appreciate that.
Tom, I also thank you for moving so quickly and purposefully with this. And I have one question and then one philosophical point. How much staff time of your department or you is being used to launch this, and how much time do you anticipate once it's a going concern? In other words, should we be factoring in a half of a staff person into the cost structure for this?
So are you asking for the time that I've spent in the past or from this point
Well,
forward?
I'm asking you to consider that as a real cost as you're going forward and defining if this is, how this deal works. I'd like to have city staff time built into the cost structure.
Okay, right.
Because if it's going to be that we have an individual like you that's either somehow troubleshooting or being the liaison or whatever, administering, we need to recognize that cost.
Okay.
And then my bigger idea is this: take this as you go forward in the spirit of which it's intended. It's a beta test. It's going to be messy. We're going to probably find out things as we go because that's the nature of new programs. And I guess keep an eye out for key learnings because that is going to be part of the process. And in your spare time, if we blow through the budget in the first 3 months, what's our contingency going to look like? If we've been overambitious, and the intention of this is the people that run the 191 and the 193 have a choice. But if this becomes such a popular service in San Clemente, think about that and how we offer that as a community benefit or not. But it's a beta test, and so it's your sights are high, but there's going to be a lot of learning.
Right, okay.
Tom, I have a question for you. Do we have the flexibility to increase Rideshare if usage is too much?
I believe we do, yeah.
Okay. So similar to how you have flex pricing components on a toll road or on a usage basis, if, for example, we have I could only pray and hope that this is the issue, but if subscription is so heavy that we're starting to blow through the funds, we have the ability to adjust up the pricing so that the rider share allows us to elongate that budgeted amount for a larger period of time. So if we find that we're getting thousands of riders on a weekly basis where we had hundreds, then a rider share could pick up to $3 out of the $5. We could have them pick up a greater share of $11 rides, and so there's ways of adjusting this. This is not, by the way, this is not comfortable for government because there's a lot of flexibility, there's a lot of moving parts, and but it's what we're adopting is more of an entrepreneurial culture that both Uber and Lyft have embraced and have brought, and it's so disruptive, right? The technology is so disruptive to what we're doing. In this case, we're trying to harness it for the betterment of our residents. And I think that as these programs grow in popularity in terms of in the private sector, the usage for the public sector will also have great benefit. We've all said philosophically, we all hate empty buses driving around our cities. It's a waste of the taxpayers' money. Although it's a great service to our residents, it wasn't an efficient use. I think this will be something that will be a pioneering effort, frankly, for Orange County and California that could show that you can have a use from the private sector employed in the public sector that can help accomplish the objectives without having empty buses, going around the streets. Anyway, I'm really I want to compliment staff and OCTA, Dave in the back there, for all the good work in getting this off the ground. This is something that's gone from an inkling of an idea about a year ago to an actual fruition contract award. I'd have to say at record time, frankly, in the way that we've done RFPs and awarding contracts. But to give you an idea, just a glimpse into the future, for example, I only found in all of my research only a couple of other cities right now in the United States are even considering something like this. Pinellas Park, Florida, as well as Centennial, Colorado. And in both of those cases, they're looking at ways to help move people more efficiently on their streets, either to replace bus service or to do something similar. We're just looking to help preserve the services. For some of those folks at home, they're like, well, I don't have a smartphone and this is going to be a challenge. This is how we're starting this program. We needed to set some parameters on how it's going to work, and to do it smoothly, we're doing within the parameters of how these usually work. Lyft, for example, has a program that they launched called Concierge that's out in New York City, and it allows for healthcare providers to call rides in for their patients to get rides to the office and home again. You don't have to have a phone at all. The medical service will call that in and pay for the service for you to get to their offices. It's a brilliant use of technology. It's something that's amazing, and maybe this is something that for the future of San Clemente may work well for either the San Clemente Village or some of these folks around town that need to do that, or the senior ride program. There's also different partnerships that are potentially out there, and for folks who just have phones and want to get a ride, they have other complementary services that will take those call centers and then arrange the ride that way. These are potentials for the future, but to get this off the ground, we're going to go with the out-of-the-box model, and I think that's the most efficient way to do it. I, for one, am extremely excited. I'd love to hear if it's okay from the Lyft representatives about if that would be okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
Love to hear a little bit more about what their thoughts are on the program and what their hopes are, if that'd be okay.
I'm Tim Houghton. I'm the market manager of Orange County, so I oversee all of Lyft's operations here in Orange County.
Good evening. My name is Deb Schrimmer, and I'm the Transportation Partnerships Analyst at Lyft. Before joining Lyft, I actually worked in the public sector at the City of Davis up in Northern California, and was a transportation planner at the Sacramento Area Council of Government. So while I currently am working in the private sector, I do have a deep empathy for what the city of San Clemente is facing, and it's really exciting to help pioneer some of these partnerships that are really a 21st century cutting edge example of how the public and the private sector can come together and enhance mobility options for residents in San Clemente. So we really thank you for being here tonight and look forward to partnering with the city.
Just a quick question. Are there many other cities that are exploring these options at this point? Give us an idea of where we're at on this, and if there's any basis we have for being encouraged, or is it a daunting task in your estimation?
Yeah, so that's a great question. This type of partnership model is something that's very new. I mean, Lyft's ride-sharing service is 4 years old, and so to be coming this far in such a short amount of time where we're actually working together with the public sector in really redefining what public transit looks like, that's a very exciting and pioneering thing. As it's clear you've done your homework, we did launch earlier this summer a partnership with the city of Centennial, which is really focused around the issue of the first and last mile challenge of maybe you don't live within walking or biking distance of a public transit station. How can we work together to help get people to take transit and get out of their cars so they're not driving alone and adding to congestion on the road, and really see transit as a viable option? So that first and last mile type of partnership is something that we've pioneered with a few cities around the country. We also think that there's a real opportunity in the paratransit space to provide service for elders and people that are unable to use a traditional fixed route service. So we've worked with the MBTA in Boston as an official ride-sharing partner in that paratransit program. And just yesterday, I was in Sacramento working with Sacramento Regional Transit to launch a similar partnership as well. But I think the city of San Clemente is very much on the cutting edge of really looking at how can our ride-sharing service be applied in a low-density area where it's really difficult to operate that frequent fixed-route bus service. Like you mentioned, it's not a good use of the taxpayer dollar to be driving these 40-foot buses around that are sometimes empty. We think that our ride-sharing service is a new tool in the mobility toolbox, and we're really excited to pioneer that with you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this too, because you see the progression from giant buses, and then we went to smaller buses here around San Clemente, and now we're going to really small buses with just 4 seats in them. I think the idea has got a lot of potential, and I hope folks will take advantage of it, and I hope I hope we're as successful as we can possibly be. I think it's a wonderful idea.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll move the item. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Thank you both.
Does anybody from the public want to speak about this? Anybody out here? Okay.
You know, one other thing I'll point out, though, and this was just, I was kind of thinking about different effects and whiteboarding it, and one of the things that is going to be a really subtle impact on our community is accessibility across a wide range of things, but also reconfiguring completely how we consider transit. For example, one of the biggest concerns we've ever had, Brad is still here, he'd appreciate this, is beach parking, right? Isn't beach parking one of the biggest factors has been in 30 years of history? Well, one of the beauties about this system is if you catch a lift down to, say, North Beach to take a train out for the day up to Los Angeles, we're not having to accommodate your car for the day in the North Beach parking lot. That spot is freed up for people who want to use the trail, who want to shop locally. And so the broad application of this program isn't simply to move people from point A to point B, but it's also taking those cars off the road that would be parking in some of those areas where we could have maybe a better use of those parking assets and resources. And so there's a lot of other effects that could potentially come of this. We're going to learn a lot about it. I'm sure there's going to be more changes afoot, and there should be, frankly. If we're sticking with the same product we'd launch with 3 months from now, we've done something wrong, because we're going to learn things and we're going to have to adjust on the fly. But I'm extremely confident in staff and in Lyft and in our partners to do that. And I would also like to encourage council, maybe an around-town video, something on the city website, and something to really get the word out so that our schools, so that all of our local businesses know about this and start using it. Because that would be, in my mind, I think our biggest challenge isn't going to be oversubscription, it could be undersubscription. So just because they got to get out awareness.
And one thing to remember, this doesn't get you a free ride home from the tavern at night, Mr. Brown. This is, you're gonna, this stops at 8 o'clock, so you'll have to pay for your own ride. You'll have to pay for your own Lyft ride home from the tavern.
Well,
did I hear a motion from you?
Yes, I will move this item.
I'll second.
Okay.
Do I need to read it out? I move that we approve and authorize the city manager to negotiate the final terms of contract C16-62 by between City of San Clemente and Lyft, providing for rideshare service for a 2-year period subject to city attorney approval in the amount not to exceed $900,000 with a thank you to Lyft, OCTA, city staff, and the council.
Second.
Motion by Brown, second by Doncheck. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you both.
Thanks, Lyft. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, OCTA. Dave?
Next item is a report from the Community Development Director concerning the possibility of amending the code of the City of San Clemente
we have
as it
a
relates to
5-minute break?
trespassing on private property.
5-minute break, Bob.
Yeah, we're going to take about till 8 o'clock then. All right, let's reconvene the meeting here.
Next item is report from the Public Works Director, City Engineer concerning SACWA potential structural voting modifications.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. Tonight there's a fairly minor item with regards to, at least with regards to the City of San Clemente regarding SACWA, the South Orange County Wastewater Authority. And we've been a member since sometime in the 1970s of this organization of 10 member agencies, and there's been discussion about changing the voting weighting from the various agencies. And right now we're about 0.6% of the operating budget, yet we have a 1/10 vote, 10%. So there's been concerns raised by Moulton-Niguel Water District, who's about 40% of the budget, about changing the weighting of the voting. And what's being discussed now would potentially lower our percentage from 10% down to 5.3% if that's the methodology that's approved by all the agencies. And staff is recommending that the council give us direction to continue on with this voting structure discussion at SACWA, and there's a meeting Thursday on this.
Well, Bill, for me, I'm looking to you for your recommendation here. Is this are these votes normally contentious, or are they generally unanimous?
In my almost 30 years in the organization, there's been very few votes over that period of time. And this is more for the general operations of the organization. Basically, we're only in one small project committee, which is for the ocean outfall where we discharge our treated effluent. So we're not involved in treatment plants and where there's a lot more operational expense of pumps and equipment. It's basically we gravity our treated effluent down to Dana Point and out the outfall line. So that's why our costs are so small. So then we have a separate project committee, and this does not change the voting in that committee at all. So staff, including Dave Riebensdorf and myself, has no problem with what's being proposed and recommend that the council authorize us to continue on in this manner.
Well, I'd be happy to make that motion, because if you and Dave are in accord on this and think it's the right thing to do, I don't see why, unless the city manager's mad about it. Okay. Thank you. Oh, we got a card on this. All right. I'd like to hear from Jake Vollbrecht.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. I'm Jake Vollbrecht. I'm an Aliso Viejo resident. I grew up here in San Clemente, so I feel very at home here. I also worked with Scott Smith at Best & Krieger for a number of years before I joined the staff at Moulton-Niguel Water District. I serve as their Director for Regional and Legal Affairs, and I'm working with June Lopez, our General Manager, on this proposal to restructure the voting at SACWA. Moulton-Niguel has a 43% allocation for the budget, the general allocation budget for SACWA's operations. And San Clemente and other agencies have much smaller allocations because Moulton-Niguel relies very heavily on SACWA for its wastewater facilities. We have a lot of shared wastewater treatment plants in Laguna Beach and in Laguna Niguel that we route all of our flow to. And one of the things that's come up at SACWA is a strategic plan. There's strategic planning going on over the role of SACWA over the next decades. We started in 1970, and we executed agreements for those shared facilities at that time. We're getting ready to reinvest in a lot of infrastructure. And if SACWA does take a role in a more general capacity as a regional water planning agency, Moulton-Niguel would like to restructure the voting so that it's based on the amount of equity it has in the operations and maintenance in the budget. And so that's what's driving this proposal. Trabuco Canyon, which is another agency that has a small investment in the O&M for SACWA, came back with a counter proposal that diluted the voting rights. And it's a compromise that Moulton Nagel is very receptive to. We think it's a great step in creating a connection between the governance and the amount of money that each agency invests in SACWA. So we'd appreciate your consideration, and this is still in the conceptual stage, so there's no formal proposal on the table. We're just developing a consensus at the board level before we come back with a formal proposal for each agency to adopt. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Well, as one who's been to many water meetings, the one thing that I've learned in my time on the city council is that the collaboration between all the local water agencies is a wonderful thing, and everybody helps each other out, and there are very few stakes in the ground when it comes to water districts. Many assets are shared, and it's a testament to all the folks in the water business that they get along so well. So I'll be completely supportive of this. Anybody want to discuss this at all? Kathy? All right, then with that, I will say that we'll give direction to staff to continue their discussions, and with that, do we need a motion for this, Joanne, or are we? Yes. All right, then I'm going to move that we direct staff to continue discussions regarding making changes to the voting structure and to report back and receive city council authorization prior to voting on any changes to SACWA's voting structure. Second. Motion by Baker, second by Donchak. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much.
Next item is a report from the Community Development Director concerning the possibility of amending the code of the City of San Clemente as it relates to trespassing on private property.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. What you have before you is an ordinance dealing with trespassing on private property. It basically mirrors the existing penal code for the state of California. It deals with, it's primarily dealing with panhandling and loitering and those issues we've had to address with commercial properties with trespass associated with them. The idea is that right now, under the penal code, it has to be enforced under state law. This gives us the ability to deal with the same issues as a municipal code, therefore providing options for the Sheriff's Department and the city attorney to deal with these issues specifically. The idea is that you have properties will say we've got specific limitations, we've got protections for First Amendment in here. So they'll assign their property, then one of the key pieces in here is that they'll coordinate with the Sheriff's Department saying who's authorized to do this, because that way we know who specifically says, I can call and say somebody's not supposed to be there. So what happens is if they identify a person as trespassing on their property, they ask them to leave, they don't leave, then they can contact the Sheriff's Department, the Sheriff's Department shows up, they can cite the person. If they continue not to leave, then the Sheriff's Department can take further action as they need to.
Okay, you got a question for Mr. King?
Can you say that one more time, that this ordinance that we are adopting takes care of panhandling, that we have the right to go in, and if they are interfering with a lawful business, we have a right to cite them?
Correct. The idea is that here, they're trespassing, they're not supposed to be there, so therefore they're panhandling or loitering, and they're not supposed to be doing that, and the business owner says, don't be there, please leave, they continue to stay there. This gives us the option to cite them under the municipal code.
Okay. Thank you very much. I wanted that clarified for the residents. Thank you.
And currently, what does our ordinance provide, if anything, on this subject?
I'd have to defer to the city attorney.
It doesn't provide
There's
anything.
zero.
No,
There's zero on the
there's
subject
a
matter.
penal code provision, but that requires that the DA redirect attention, have dialogue with property owners, and forego prosecuting drug lords, and it's not a top priority. So this gives us this additional tool at the local level.
Tools, okay.
To work with property owners.
And Mr. King, would you talk for just a little bit about the, folks gathering petitions, or folks selling Girl Scout cookies, or how those Girl Scout cookies, they can get, awful. So would you talk about those uses, the things that are protected?
Right. There's a whole list of specific items that are protected. For the specifics of the Girl Scout cookies, I defer to Scott.
No, that was my attempt at humor. Sorry.
But the idea is, it protects. If there's labor actions going on, petitions, protests, those kind of things. It protects those things. It's designed to do those things that would be illegal that aren't First Amendment protected. So we're going to make sure we're taking care of that.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to make that clear to everybody.
Okay, definitely.
Okay. more questions for Mr. King? Anybody like to say anything about this? All right.
I have one question. If someone's panhandling on public property,
This currently just addressed private property.
okay, so if someone were to move out to the sidewalk, they could still panhandle?
Currently, I think we'd have to defer to Scott.
Yeah, that's a whole new level of protection that they have on public property.
Okay,
Difficult to
so
regulate.
this is focused on private property.
Now, they cannot block on public property egress if they're in your way, someone's trying to walk and they're obstructing their walk, then that's a whole separate crime. And we've talked to the sheriff and they.
And
they
is
know exactly what to do
panhandling ever considered a form of loitering?
Yeah, but it is, but loitering's also has pretty heavy protections under the California Constitution. Tough to ban.
Thank you.
I'll move this item. That's okay. Move that we introduce ordinance number 1633 entitled ordinance of the City Council, San Clemente, California, amending the San Clemente Municipal Code by adding Chapter 9.24, Sections 9.24010 through 9.24080 regarding trespass on private property.
I'll second that. Motion by Brown, second by Baker. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you, Mr. King. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Next is a report from the city attorney concerning the possibility of amending the city manager's employment agreement.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. I made reference to this item earlier. Every year, the city council is required to evaluate its city manager. The council completed that process recently, and it's also the council is authorized under the contract to review and set compensation for its city manager. It does that by setting parameters in labor negotiation in closed session, and then offering those terms to the city manager for his consideration. The council has offered, and the manager has accepted, the following amendments to the city's agreement with Mr. Makshinoff for employment services. If the council can turn to page 9C-2 of its agenda packet, the first section that's amended is Section 5A of Mr. Makshinoff's contract. That section has a blank in it for the manager's base salary, which has been set, which will be set pursuant to this amendment of $248,136. That's range 99, step D, in the city's compensation schedule as amended. Section 17 of that contract is also amended. The council approved, and Mr. Makshinoff accepted the amended Section 17 as it's contained on page 9C-3. So with those two amendments complete and accepted by the manager, the recommendation is that the council consider and approve the attached second amendment to the employment agreement between the City of San Clemente and James Makshinoff.
I've got a question there, Scott. What was the percentage raise granted to the city manager?
Mr. Sun is going to have to, I have it.
2.4.
2.41?
2.44%.
Thank you.
2.4%. And Eric, come on out
There
for
he
1
is.
second. Thank you.
Thanks, sorry, Eric.
Thank you. How much of a raise did you give your boss, Eric? We'd like to know.
2.44%.
Thank you.
And you gave the raise to the city
Thank
manager.
you. And what did the city employees, what was their raise last year?
2.775.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And that is no reflection on the performance of Mr. Makshinoff, correct?
Well, Mr. Makshinoff has gotten a 5-star rating in my book because Mr. Makshinoff has been an outstanding city employee, and we, the residents of San Clemente, are fortunate to have a gentleman with Mr. Makshinoff's experience and foresight in that position. So many more years of that. Thank you very much, James.
Would you like
It
a
was
motion?
easier to do it that way, that's all.
Would you like a motion?
Please.
I move that we approve and authorize the mayor to execute amendment number 2 to contract C14-36, the employment agreement by and between the City of San Clemente and city manager James Makshinoff.
I second the motion.
Motion by Donjack, second by Brown, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Passed unanimously. Any opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you.
Good work,
And
James.
I'd also like to add my appreciation for your high-quality performance in an exceptionally difficult year.
Thank you.
The city got a lot done this year, and I think you had a lot to do with that, and our new staff that you hired.
It's a reflection of the staff that we have here at the City of San Clemente. I've always said that we have a great staff, and I wholeheartedly believe that.
Thank you.
Oral Communications, Part 2.
Okay, we're on to oral communications part 2, and Mr. Lafrano would like to speak about business planning.
I'm a fan of our city manager as well, just to let you know. We need a business development czar for San Clemente, okay? We need less churches going into the business, to the Rancho business, the business park up there, and we need more companies that employ more people to increase our revenue. We increase our revenue, we get to buy more things. It's a pretty easy concept. So rather, you know, what just amazes me is that how do we have a business plan in terms of who we allow to come in to San Clemente? Can Hooters come into San Clemente? Do we have a plan? I think it would be logical to have someone like me who has these questions to be able to approach a business development czar. And I think it would be a great idea for someone to go up to Silicon Valley and try to get a high-tech company up here to the business park to bring in some revenue, rather than, allowing certain businesses to come in here that are, almost revenue neutral. Don't bring in a lot of revenue. I'm not going to mention, one of the items tonight that was voted on, but I guess I just did. So I think it would be wise for our mayor, Bob or Kathy, and whoever the mayor is, Mayor Duanum, or whatever you would like to call it, to be the business czar. Go up to Silicon Valley. I'll pay for the ticket on Southwest. Mr. Baker, you've been up there. I've seen you on Southwest. Go to Sacramento. Let's get up into Silicon Valley, and let's start attracting some really good quality businesses to San Clemente. It'll increase our top line revenue, and the bigger the top line revenue, the more goodies you get to buy. It's just economics 101. Who do I talk to about doing this? How do we get this started? Mr. Baker? I'm done. You're done? Yeah.
Well, there's your guy. Mr. Maxinoff will talk to you about it. We've spoken about business czars for a long time, and so Mr. Maxinoff will fill you in. We already have 4 of them working in town right now, so that's...
4 business czars?
Yep.
The history on that is we used to have an economic development director, and when he retired, it was decided that those staff dollars could be redeployed into different areas in terms of how the then city manager viewed the needs of the city. And that was 6 years ago, 4 years ago?
It was 8. It was 8.
Longer than that. And yeah, I'll talk about it later.
Let's brainstorm. You can always do better. We can always make more money. Thank you.
Thanks.
City Manager. City Attorney.
Nothing more tonight, thanks.
Council members.
Can you put up that slide? TCA slide? Do you have it? No? Okay. That's all right. Yes.
From last week?
Yes.
Okay, I can flip.
Okay. I had asked for a slide to come up for this, so just so people can look at it. want to let the public know that tomorrow night is a public forum on a possible toll road coming into our city. That toll road meeting is going to be at St. Andrew's Church on Calle Frontera. It starts at 5:30, and I believe they think it's going to go to 7:30 or 8. The toll road agency thinks that they're only going to get potential opposition from San Clemente, and I'm hoping that our residents and our businesses show them that that is not true. So please attend tomorrow night if you can. Bring as many people in the car with you. So I think parking is going to be limited. And I think we have a, are you going to talk on this? No, we closed public comment. Okay. Okay, so anyway, tomorrow night, 5:30, St. Andrew's Church, TCA. This is something that will impact our city, and it's very important that your opinion is heard. So please show up.
I've got one thing. First of all, I wanted to, and I know you're going to talk about the Ole Hansen pool opening last week. A group of residents have, led by Kenny Nielsen, who's, one of our founding citizens, asks to be agendized the following. Now that the new refurbished Ole Hansen Beach Club is done, what do you think about dedicating the pool in the name of Van Rutan, who was a lady who ran the pool and taught every kid in San Clemente how to swim? She ran the pool with an iron fist but with a heart of gold. We would be willing to raise the money for a wall plaque or whatever is needed. There are many Van stories when needed. And there's a group of residents that are interested in having the pool dedicated to this first pool swim teacher. And so I would like to agendize that as a topic for our consideration and ask that as part of the staff report, we get walked through what policy, if any, exists for naming items in San Clemente. Kenny's idea was that the designer of the Semper Fi monument, he, I guess, is interested in designing this little plaque that might be featured somewhere on the pool deck or at the pool club. But she's a part of history, Van Rutan. I'm not familiar with who she is, but people that have been here from that generation, he said Lois Dival knows exactly who she is. So the idea would be to agendize this for consideration.
I don't see any problem with it. I would like to, I think for anything like this, we went through a series of discussions about naming rights at the sports park, and there was some contemplation about economic consideration as other things. If there is somebody worthy of that, and there's a specific proposal from resident, I think it's worth contemplating it, learning about it, and understanding exactly what that entails. If there's a plaque and memoriam or something proposed, then, sure, we should absolutely take a look at that. I think that it really is, unfortunately, this can be fairly subjective, and so I think we just need to be more educated about who she is and what she is, and learn a little bit more about her, so that we can understand what the people want and hope for,
Then that's a good point. That should be included in the staff report, her credentials, her background, people's appreciation for her in the community, which Kenny can provide.
And there's, and just to convey, like, for example, there's probably dozens of people over the time at the golf course, who've been very meaningful to the golf course, and how do you, and so there's a way of, I guess there's a way of doing this tastefully in a way that's not a slippery slope, but I think we need to explore that. I think that's part of the conversation, because if there are icons like this locally that we want to honor, then we should be very careful how we do that, because there's so many people who contribute, and how does it all fit together? I guess it would be. But if Kenny's saying it, then she must have a real place in our history. Yeah. Let's talk about it. Let's learn about her and see what the right fit is.
Great.
And have staff, I think part of our discussion would be, where would the plaque go? Would it be on a wall inside?
And would it?
things like that, because I don't want to get into where we're changing the name of the Ole Hansen Beach Club. It has to remain.
Oh, no, this is
that.
just the pool.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, the pool.
Just the
I'm sorry.
pool.
I thought you were talking about the entire beach club.
No, oh, no, I'm sorry, to be clear, just the pool.
Yeah.
Okay, but your point is still valid. Where would it go? What would
Yeah.
it, how would it fit?
Or one of the pools.
And I thought we were going to name the pool after the first person to jump in the pool after, it had
It
been
was
refurbished.
renovated?
Go
We're
ahead,
still
Tim.
working on it.
Yeah, exactly right. So in speaking about the Ole Hansen Beach Club, there's been a lot of information being promulgated in social media and other things with people questions. I know it's out there when I get text message about it. So I just want to read a real quick rundown of exactly where we stand with the pool on a few key items. Right now, just for an update, so we did open it. We had the opening and the ribbon cutting this last week. But right now, city staff is working with appropriate regulatory agencies to get the pool permitted for operation. It takes some time. And the pool is also in a curing process and has to get the chemical balance established after that. We anticipate it'll be open for the community by the end of the month, and we do appreciate the residents' patience on that. When the pool is finally open, we're planning on having a series of free swim days for the public to get reacquainted with the pool. And so that'll have to be scheduled at the time when it is ready, when it passes regulatory hurdles. But we feel like, there's been, 4 or 5 years, an entire generation of San Clemente who needs to get reacquainted with the Ole Hansen Beach Club. And so we hope and have a lot of open pool times and free swims so that people can come in and enjoy it like they used to before it was closed. Please note that the BPNR Commission will be discussing the hours of operation for both the Beach Club and the Vista Hermosa Aquatic Facility at its October 26th meeting at City Hall. And for the first time in our history, we'll begin the endeavor of having 2 premier pool facilities. With a limited budget, we're trying to find a balance of programming in relation to each so that the funding and revenues can support a long-term operation of both sites. And then another thing regarding the catering component, October 1st also was the date we opened the facility, and we had a vendor who is also operating the facility for us in terms of rentals, and that is 24 Carats. And that was approved by the City Council on May 17th. If you want to take a look at the staff report, that's online. Remember, this was the end of a very exhaustive RFP process that was seeking a wedding banquet operator. We received 7 proposals, I think it was. And after review and evaluation, we selected 24 Carats. One of the significant reasons why we select them is because of the fact that it provides revenue for the ongoing maintenance of Ole Hansen Beach Club, as well as a percentage of food and commission of beverage sales. And so that allows us to take care of this club, not wait 50 years for it to fall apart and then fix it, but we could actually keep it nice for generations to come. We anticipate that it'll provide a higher level of service to the club, and is also similar to currently how we're operating the Wedgwood facility in town where the golf club is. And so it's an extremely similar operating profile. If you have any questions about operating the facility, you can contact city staff for it. And we're excited to reintroduce the Ole Hansen Beach Club. We think it's going to be great. And details will be pending about the free swim opportunities for members of the public. And just so we remember, so right now, because it's in this kind of this operating environment where we're not quite sure when it's going to open, we couldn't really program out the pool. Regular programming with classes and everything will commence as of January 1st. And so we're going to have rentals available, and the pool will be open, and there'll be some public swimming, but when the actual programming will start on the 1st of January and proceed from there. Okay? That's it.
All right, I got a couple of photos to show from the aforementioned Beach Club grand opening. I was very honored that the city's matriarch and patriarch, Lois Dival and Jack Lashbrook, agreed to come to the grand opening and share a couple of their stories about their memories from the Ole Hansen Beach Club when they were kids. So that was a terrific part of the program. Jack got some laughs there. He had a couple of great stories, and but Lois got the biggest applause. She got a lot of applause there in her story. So anyway, it was great, and I want to thank them both for showing up. The ribbon cutting was a success. No one was injured. It was a great thing. I was very honored to do that, and that toast to the Beach Club. I'm so thrilled that it's, going. You see that big thumbs up in the back. The only bad part of that was apple juice, but that's okay. We'll get over that. These are the 3 city staffers that really had their heart and soul into this thing. That's Amir Ilkanapour on my far left, Pam Passo on my left, and Dave Riebensdorf, who came in very late, but was a very important contributor right at the end. I want to give all 3 of those folks a hearty round of applause. We did it that night. I want to do that again this evening. I want to thank them very much for their efforts, and it was appreciated by all the residents of San Clemente. So thank you guys very much. Everybody had a wonderful time. That's a great pool deck. Isn't that a great shot there? It was a beautiful evening, gorgeous, perfect weather, just terrific. So it was a great thing. We had another launch last October the 1st, and that was of a project that I'm really in favor of, and that is our San Clemente Village. They had their first volunteer go out and drive someone to a doctor's appointment. So this is a great program. It's going to keep seniors in their homes for just a little bit longer. If you'd like to be a volunteer and help out some folks that could just use a little hand here, go to scvillage.org. Or if you need a little hand yourself, give them a call and sign up. It's a great program. My wife and I are members, and I think it's just going to help tremendously. It's going to change some folks' lives. So I couldn't be happier that they've finally launched, and we've got some folks that can use the help. So thank you.
I move.
Have we got? What's that? Alzheimer's thank you card. Oh, yeah, thank you. We do a lot of things at the city. We do a lot of proclamations for some folks. Occasionally we get a nice thank you card, and this is from the Alzheimer's Association. I wanted to thank them and thank the city council and make sure everybody saw this terrific card thanking us for recognizing September as World Alzheimer's Awareness Month. So that's from the Alzheimer's Association. I wanted to thank them for thanking us. It was a nice touch.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the second reading of Ordinance 1632 relating to regulations for personal, medical, and commercial use of marijuana.
Before we head into this second reading, I have changed my position on this, Scott. I've become concerned about the idea that the public record will show where people are growing their own marijuana. I did not understand how expensive marijuana was. I didn't get that. Apparently the plants are going to be very valuable. So I think it's going to be a bad idea to have people get a permit for something and then their address will be a public record and people can go and find out where the stuff is. I thought it was a good tool for us to have, but I think that the public safety of that overrules the fact that the city's going to have the tool. So I'm going to be opposed to this zoning amendment and regulation.
Are you asking us to reconsider the item?
Well, I'm not going to be in favor of it tonight, so it's not going to. Well, I don't know if it's going to pass or not, of course, but we can either reconsider it or.
Do we need a motion on that, Joanne?
You would need a motion either way, to reconsider it or to adopt it.
I would second that. I think we should reconsider it, and effectively it would be taking out 3B on Exhibit A of securing a permit for private use that is legal in the state of California if that passes in November. So I would second that we reconsider this and go back to putting it on the agenda.
And if we do that, could we direct staff to provide the cost of these marijuana plants? Because I didn't know they were expensive either, so you must have some information that we should all have.
Yeah.
I'll work with the police chief to establish those costs.
Okay, well, then I'll make a motion that we reconsider ordinance 1632.
I'll second that.
All right, motion by Baker, second by Ward, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passed unanimously. I remain opposed to the whole marijuana thing. To me, it drives me crazy. I can't believe the state of California and the voters of California are going to actually pass this. I can't believe it, but every poll you read says it's going to pass with flying colors, and I think it's a terrible idea. I'm afraid for our traffic statistics, frankly.
Well, I think part of the conversation would be, you know, when we're relooking at this, your consideration of marijuana, one of the things that I would be concerned about is you know, a regulatory scheme where someone who says they're, you know, growing, or at least for personal use, and, you know, you have an increased amount of traffic, commercialization, sale, and other items, and we have zero tools to address that increase. And what do we have other than a warrant?
No.
That's what we would have anyway. B, I didn't think give us
We'll
an
talk
extra,
about it when
but
it's
we will
reconsidered.
talk
When
about it.
it's-
We'll talk about
Would you
it.
like a motion to adjourn?
Please.
Okay, I move that we adjourn to the next regular council meeting on October 18th in the council chambers located at 100 Avenida Presidio. Closed session items at
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passed unanimously. Good night.